What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another live stream this week, a special Thirsty Thursday edition to accommodate a very special guest I have. But we've got UFC San Antonio on deck, featuring that potential 5-round clash at bantamweight. Marlon Vera versus Cory Sandhagen. See who's next in line for a potential title shot. And we do have 12 fights now on the card. We did lose that prelim opener of Tamiris Vidal and Haley Cowan. So a big loss there. Pretty disappointed in that one. Probably is going to max bet one of those two girls, I'm sure. But anyways, we do have a good opportunity here because I'm usually the type of bettor where, I take the risk out of it. I do like just picking sides, money lines that I like to see value in, some overs, unders, some maybe some juiced parlays. But I'll dabble in the props here and there. But we had Narco Cop on a few weeks ago, the co-host of the Lambo Plays Podcast on Friday night, where those guys are nailing high value prop after high value prop, not only picking a winner, but a method around and just getting all types of money and results. So I've got the second half of that show tonight. Tim Troiano has agreed to come on. Some have called him the Trevor Whitman of tennis. This guy is also a very classy gentleman, man, not just talking about violence and blood sports, but a high-level athlete in tennis as well. So let's bring in Timothy Troiano and see what he's got to offer us for this stream. How you doing, Tim?
Thank you very much for the kind words. It's great to be here.
Of course, dude. I mean, that's one of the more popular shows of the week, all the way at the end of the week on Friday night. And usually, I was telling Narco, that's like when my girlfriend and I are about to go out to dinner. I'm just stalling, buying time, watching and seeing what props you guys are going to throw our way and parlay together at the end. So speaking of all that stuff that you do for a living and now what you do, on the side on YouTube, how did you actually get into making that transition to like combat sports interest versus tennis?
I've always really been into watching MMA. And then probably a solid 10, 12 years, been watching with friends. We'd always hang out and do this. But I really started getting into it gambling wise, very small at first, at the start of the pandemic. So I was just like, I just want to have fun doing something and get into a hobby. And, I had so much time in my hands. So I'm like, I just really want to take this into, a different realm. And as we spoke about before the show, I just found it was really interesting how comparable tennis and fighting were, and just the different dynamics that you see one-on-one in these competitions and how you can break certain people. And it's just so awesome. And you can just see the dog in different competitors and just know that certain people have quit in them, and just stylistic matchups. So yeah. I really love that element of it.
Yeah, I always enjoyed that coming from a martial arts background. I always like the solo endeavor sports versus, it's hard to lift up a whole team on your own if you're really like a go-getter, but you kind of want the success or failure of the day to just be on your own shoulders. So I always like that aspect of tennis as well. So shout out the chat before we dive into the first prelims of the night. Got Daz Files holding it down first in the chat. The right light, Tim does look a lot like Brad Pitt. That was actually a picture of Tim. That was not Brad Pitt on that thumbnail. We got Victor J. De Jesus in the chat saying hello to myself and Tim. Got my guy Cucumber in here. Good to see you in here. Mr. Ice Viking as well. Dan Hamilton. Yeah, Tim has always had balls. That's I don't think that's ever been questioned here. And we do have Papa Chuck in here as well. So, yeah, man, it's going to be an awesome show. We'll get into this. Like I stated at the beginning, we do have kind of a difference in gambling perspectives. I'm more of a guy that just takes the easy route. I just take the money lines. I try to find value between the implied probability of the line and what I actually think is going to happen in the fight. But we'll talk about props mostly tonight because I want to add some spots. I have 4 money lines so far, like 1 or 2 props, but let's try to find some good spots. So starting off with the first fight of the night, we now have the opener being at flyweight between Victor Altamirano and Vinicius Salvador. And this should be a really fun fight. I'm glad that this is now opening up the card in front of the live Texas crowd. You've got that more of a traditional boxing style from Altamirano with a well-rounded game, some grappling, taking on Vinicius Salvador, who's more of like a wild man, loose, creative striker, hands low style, tries to bait you in, hit the pull counters. So probably the power advantage for Salvador here at flyweight. He's putting away a lot of his opposition, but Altamirano, I feel like he could take over in this fight if he could just avoid getting bonked in round 1. So how do you feel about this fight, Tim? We're looking at almost a pick-em price tag on the odds, but now we're seeing some books at like plus 100 for Altamirano, minus 120 for Salvador. Who do you like?
I think if I had to pick a side, like you said, I usually attack props on fights, and I think that this is a violence fight. I think that anybody who bets like the unders, if you got under 2.5, FanDuel was giving gifts out a couple weeks ago on lines on this fight. So if you hit those, good for you. I kind of see violence, but it's a really tough fight because Altamirano is very hittable and he's not a great wrestler. So I feel like, he's going to have a grappling edge just if he can get the fight to the ground. And I feel like he should have a grappling edge in general, but the wrestling isn't fantastic. And I feel like if the fight's standing, then it's, the coin flip for the first round or so is about right. I think like you're saying, if he worries about the left hand and the counter shots, it's pretty big winging shots from Salvador. Like if he can hang with him or if he can get any type of grappling going whatsoever, I think he could eventually break him. But I think it's going to require some grappling. So either way, the under or fight doesn't go in this type of fight looks pretty good. Salvador's very kill or be killed. The only issue I have is I don't think that Altamirano really hits too hard on the feet. So he's going to need to get like a position like he got in the last fight against De Silva. But Salvador's not De Silva. That's the other thing too, is we're going to talk about De Silva later on. Salvador's not him. Like he'll fight through adversity and he has way better cardio than that. So I just don't know what he looks like in round 3. And I just know that he's pretty much going to give everything he can in the first 8 minutes or so, like full rabies style.
Yeah, it is an odd thing when you think about like a flyweight fight. One guy fighting almost like a heavyweight in Vinicius Salvador, right? Like he's got 13 knockouts and 14 wins. Only been to decision one time out of 18 fights, and that was a losing result. We've seen this guy controlled on the mat before. I think that could happen here with Altamirano. So I do lean that side. I was hoping I think we're getting a good line on Altamirano, man. Like we're getting a little bit of a recency bias against him. He kind of got... I think he kind of got not robbed, but it was a close decision loss that I think should have gone his way in his debut, right? So now he righted that wrong, but we're seeing all of these fast finishes for Vinicius Salvador. I think that's why the line is where it is. I feel like if Altamirano would have had more momentum now in the UFC, had got his hand raised, I feel like the money line would have been more in his favor here. But the fight doesn't go to decision. I agree with you. That's like minus 175-ish range. But I agree that we can't just write off the fact that since he hasn't been to decision a whole lot, he's just going to fall apart at flyweight. These guys, not everybody's a Daniel De Silva, like you said. Like they might not just die just because they haven't been to a decision. So
I agree too. Lou in the chat has said about a live bet potentially on Altamirano as well. I think that's a great spot. Like I just, some of these fights are just there's a lot of fights on this card where I would not prefer to bet it pre. I would much prefer to watch 2 minutes or watch a round and then say, I'll pay the juice a little bit more on a fight that I now have data on and I get information sometimes or I'd rather pay the bet and get a huge plus line on somebody that I knew was going to lose the first round anyways. So.
Yeah, there are a lot of spots like Nate Landwehr is a guy that I've live bet successfully in the past, like in his last fight. Marlon Vera is a good guy to do that. So there's a handful of guys where if they don't get that round one finish, try to snipe that spot. Is that something that you generally, when I live bet, which is rare, it's few and far between, but it's when I have a spot ahead of time. Like I'll have like a fighter I'm looking to live bet, I'll be ready for it. And then I'm kind of I got a number ballpark in my head of what I want to see on that live line. Are you a little bit more methodical than that or less methodical? Or are you just playing it by ear?
I'd bet live way more than I bet pre. I mean, like it's just kind of similar to the props. Like the Narcos live spaces has just been like a cash cow. Like just being able to evaluate the thing about it is like you can always almost always arb off in a lot of these situations where you're just watching and you have a guy that is plus 300 and he starts the second round and then it goes a little hairy and you're like, okay, well now I'm getting even. So like I can just pay the other side, play for free and hope one guy wins. It's the same thing in tennis. That's why I found it so similar. The live lines are like drunk when you watch them and how huge they overreact and overcorrect. So I feel like, I think it's a much better way to go, especially then you have data. You also have the information on what you were wondering before the fight and how it would go. And then you're given more of that. So I feel like you can pay for a little bit more of that information. You can also pay for the odds getting better in your favor too. So either way is good.
All right. I mean, that's good for me to hear because I got to get more into that. I mean, there are some times I'm just on the go and just not, having my finger on the trigger live, but there's a lot of times where I am these days and I should be taking advantage of that.
Perfect example last week was Hardy. So I had Miller inside the distance.
Oh yeah, what was that live line like? Because she was what? She was like plus 350
first round. First round she stayed plus 300 for the whole round. So it's like you got to the end of the round, she started going 150 to plus 100. So you had a full half a round and then you saw dominant positions where you would think Miller would be dominant, and you're like, oh, she's losing this position. And I instantaneously bet. I'm like, now I know.
Okay.
Like, so it's just that to me is really way more. It's a better way long term. Yeah. You just have the data.
What is DraftKings somebody that's like constantly like the live lines are always open? Because I feel like some books like Bovada and things like that, they're only opening that up like in between rounds.
DraftKings. Yes, DraftKings also does like finish in this minute prop of rounds too. So you can like if you feel like a fighter is going to finish in the second round, they'll give you like 18-1 per minute sometimes. So
yeah, I'm right there with you, Victor. That's why I have people that like bet all different types of ways. There's a lot of ways to make money in this game, so I just try to pick from the best people and hopefully make myself a little bit more smarter and share it with you guys. Rips and Picks MMA in the house. First time on the channel, just subscribe. What's going on, my friend? Good to have you in here. Lou bet you. Yeah, I gotta watch that episode of Props to Consider and then maybe bet. He had some awesome guests on there today, so I'll watch that as soon as we get off. But yeah, you experience any delay on that? Dan's asking, just like, will you hit it? Because I've done that in the past before off of my phone or whatever. Like I've hit, it'll say plus 500 for a guy, and then like it finally goes through, it's like plus 275. You know what I mean?
No, well, the thing is that you have to make sure that your own app is not set to accept any line, because they'll do that.
Sure.
Yeah,
I got you. What's going on here? Yeah. You want a BMW live betting, man? Why is your internet not improved? What's going on here?
I gotta get a better camera.
All right, we got Manuel Torres taking on Trey Ogden up next at lightweight. This is kind of a contested spot here. I've seen some people like my guy Lou Betya in the chat, who's on the Manuel Torres side. I find myself on the underdog, and I did put a 1-unit bet on Ogden at plus 135. I like him in this spot. Not that I think he's going to go out there and, work his way into the top 15 of the division, but with a guy like Manuel Torres, we're talking about a guy who's very front-loaded, aggressive-paced, striker, can start to overswing desperately, and I think Trey Ogden is actually a better striker defensively than a lot of people give him credit for. Coming off that awesome spot where he cashed as a dog at like plus 320 against Daniel Zellhuber in September. It wasn't awesome for me. I was pretty high on Zellhuber, who froze up there, but Trey Ogden, man, he's a grappler. 11 subs out of 16 wins. I think if he can drag this late, he's not the worst takedown artist in the game. Get into round 2 and maybe get a submission there. I did put a half of a unit on his plus 550 sub line. Are you seeing this differently than I am? Do you like Manuel Torres in this spot? He's only 27 years old.
This fight's a pass for me. Like I don't feel really too strongly on this fight either side. I can understand. I kind of feel I'm both sides are logical in making their argument. The only thing that I don't agree with, or a narrative that I don't always agree with, what people will say is specifically about the Torres side. I'll get to Ogden in a second. But the Torres side, he's positionally kind of inept on the ground, and he makes really bad decisions, and that's why he's gotten subbed in the manners that he has versus the guys that he has. But at the same time, he's really big for the division. I think he's seen round 2 once, and then he hasn't seen round 3. So the narrative always is on these guys is all right, drag them late and they're fucked. Get him into round 3, get him in round 2, and it's we don't know that. We don't know what he looks like. Just because he kills everybody in round 1 doesn't mean that we know that he's shit in round 2 or shit in round 3. He could be way better in round 3. I'm not saying that he is, but I feel like that's the unknown. So that's why I'm kind of sitting and waiting. And then, I might live bet it the same thing. I might look at it a little bit and then live bet it a little bit. But I kind of get the early one side, because that's what he's done. It's the narrative. It's just easy to look at that and be like, oh yeah, once his drag's there. I more would rather just not bet this really and not try to pretend like I know on this fight. I do feel clearly that the grappling edge, if the fight hits the ground and if Ogden is like able to get him to the ground, because like I said, Torres is pretty big. But I just feel like if he is able to get him to the ground, I do feel like the sub is live for him, like at any moment. So I don't hate anybody taking a shot on sub props for Ogden or his money line because of that. He's got obviously the plus money there. Ogden losing striking, and I thought he won the fight against Jordan Levitt. I thought he got robbed, but at the same time, like,
that was rough. Yeah,
that was
a rough one.
I still thought he was like, I just thought it was too close and it shouldn't have been close. Like, this is kind of where I don't think that Ogden is good either. So neither one of these guys am I like willing to put a ton of money on. I don't think the props for, either one is like great, minus potentially sub for Ogden. Cause I kind of think it's his easiest path. But I just don't know that he gets it there. So no real like super confident lean on this one. If you told me to put gun to head or something like that, I probably would say Ogden by sub, but not confident.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like we talked about, it's going to be a theme repeated here until there's a few clear spots. But yeah, just because the guy hasn't been out of round one in 8 consecutive fights. Just because he hasn't doesn't mean he won't be equipped to deal with not having a heart attack in round 2. But so that's why, like, if Trey Ogden was like a minus 140. If the lines were flipped, then I wouldn't really trust him because, I don't want to play that narrative and pretend like I know. But at plus money, I'll take those odds, for flipping coins here, which I think the line should be. I'll take the plus side. And I really liked initially, I placed the first bet was that half unit at plus 550 on Ogden sub because he's done it successfully many times. Probably he's seen the scorecards in the later parts of a fight a lot. But then I'm like, what if this guy goes out there and just wins like a grindy, controlled time-based decision? I'll be so pissed if I don't have at least a little bit on his underdog money line as well. So, I played both of those. But yeah, it is an iffy fight. Probably a spot where you might want to stay away and just data collect for next time these guys fight.
Live. This is another one of those live bet spots. Like if you see that, like after round 1, obviously, if you believe that Torres is front loaded, it's like you're going to get plus 300 or you're going to get plus 250 on him live after round 1 or midway through, and or if you see that he instantly cage pushes him, he instantly gets him down one time, and then you're paying minus 120 for something that you already know now is exactly what is your path. And then it's only going to get better in your mind that round 2, it'll only get better. I think you have the data then.
Okay. Yeah. That's just not a way that I've bet in the past, but I'm going to have to be like at my battle station, like ready on like desktop with, ready to go with these live bets. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Normally I'm like, I like the work to be done. I can enjoy the fights and I don't like to, I like to drink during these fights a lot of the time, and like I don't like to gamble when I drink because it's just a bad recipe. That's what Vegas is basically built on. So maybe I'll have to try to be, just have some coffee instead or something when I watch these fights, for God's sake, and try to make some more money with you guys. But we can move on to a more exciting fight here. This is the one we're talking about with a super killer be killed lightweight in Daniel Da Silva taking on CJ Vergara. And frankly, Tim, like I'll let you kick this one off, but I just want to say, like CJ Vergara, I think this is a step down in competition. Potentially, after maybe a couple of minutes, I think it's a step down from facing guys like Tatsuro Taira, facing guys like Clayton Rodriguez. I think Da Silva, who's 0-3 in the UFC, this is a bit of a step down. But the money line we're looking at is minus 240 Vergara, plus 205 Daniel Da Silva. What do you like about this fight? Any props sticking out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Vergara's these are the type of fights that are so easy to play both sides and to make money. Like you can play round 1 on Da Silva, or you could play round 1 sub on Da Silva, which is most likely paths. I mean, guaranteed most likely paths. The dude goes absolute like rage virus first 90 seconds of a fight and just gives everything he can and has no management whatsoever of his gas tank and adrenaline and just completely shoots his load. And then he's dead. And then he can't fight anymore. And he's shown it. It's not like just once in a while. Like he literally does this every single time.
The look in his eye when he's like, oh, wait, there's a round 2 in this thing, in this sport. There's a round 2. Like, it's like that look in his eye where he's like genuinely shocked he has to do it again when they put him out there.
I did. Yeah, it's like the old school tape of Brian Bosworth trying to tackle Bo. When he gets dropped, he's like, what the fuck? Or like, what the hell just happened? I think It's just a fight where it's just like CJ by KO is solid, or CJ inside the distance round 1 or round 2, either end of round 1 after he handles the adversity or early round 2. Feel like under 1.5 is like a just auto bet in any of the Silva fights. Like I said, FanDuel's beautiful.
At minus 200, we're looking at the under 1.5.
I just put it. You just not now, but I just you just put it in like a parlay with something and be fine.
Okay.
Like I just don't think that it's. I just think you're talking about like a 80-90 percentile outcome. It's not like CJ doesn't come at people and doesn't go for a kill and isn't dangerous on the feet. So you have that, and then you just add the fact that a guy, his opponent just quits, like outright quits. So out of 100 times, there's no way you can't tell me that somebody doesn't die in the first 7.5 minutes of this fight 85 times out of 100.
Okay, that's interesting. Yes, because a minus 200 would be around that 66 percentile implied. I just find it hard. Like, even when the matchup says it, something in my brain is like, on a flyweight fight, the under 1.5. Like, what if this one? Because there's been a lot of times where and I should probably disregard those as like anomalies and just move on and not strategy jump. But there's a lot of times where I'm like, all right, neither of these two guys have seen the scorecards. This is like an easy under, and then it goes over, and then after that, I'm like, all right, well, screw that. Like, screw picking a side here, But I just need to just throw those out and not let that deter me from what happens the large majority of the time, is what you're saying.
Process over results. Just like if you're looking at a bet, just look at it like math and be like, if I made this bet 100 times, how many times am I going to cash this bet?
Yep. So, I do like that. That should certainly hit, even where it's at now, minus 195 on DraftKings for the under 1.5. But I mean, what's the method of CJ Vergara if he does win this fight come round 2?
He should KO him. Like it should. Yeah, it's either he bonks him or he like gets. I don't think it's going to be like a takedown necessarily from CJ. I just feel like he's going to eventually connect.
What do you think about MMA Jesus, my guy Dev in the chat? What do you think about his Daniel Da Silva by decision? That's got to be up there in price. I mean, that's got to be. I mean, it's not very likely, but plus 1,200 on DraftKings. You taking any of that action?
It's really like it's just one of those things. I wouldn't take it, but I mean, it's if you feel like he has to do everything different than he's done before. I mean, like, and have we seen people do that? For sure. Like, is it possible that he totally soft cocks his performance and does nothing? But I just don't think that's like you're not going to get that fight from CJ Vergara. Like, he beat Clayton Rodriguez. Clayton's no scrub, and he just constantly pressured him, and it's like that's what he does. So I don't know.
I think CJ is going to gas more than Daniel Da Silva. Are you taking this into consideration? And I have to mark this. This is my guy Dev. He does run a YouTube. Dev the Dude on YouTube. And Chris Curtis recently offered him $10,000 to go and fight him in their gym because MMA Jesus, one of his locks of the night, failed. He called it a robbery. He went on a tirade, and Chris Curtis had some nasty words in the comment section, so they got into it. Dev, my guy Dev, he did not back down from that. Most people would back down when Chris Curtis calls you out. He said, "I'll club and sub you," and he probably called him something derogatory.
I'll tell you what, I see the gigantic balls that he has by saying Silva by decision, and that he has a better gas tank than CJ. So those right there are the South Park carry the balls on the wheelbarrow balls right there.
I just want you to know the background of who you're dealing with here, man. My guy, MMA Jesus, Dev, gives no fucks. So go give him a subscribe for that. I want to see that fight between him and Chris Curtis. I'd say Dev should be lined minus 500, but I think Vegas will get the odds wrong. But we can move on to a fight that really is one of my lesser confident picks, Tim. And this is going to be Trevin Giles taking on Preston Parsons at welterweight. The third walk to the cage at welterweight for Trevin Giles, who's been in the UFC 10 times now. This will be his 11th fight. He's gone 6-4, but I'm not so sold on his 170 venture here. Preston Parsons, 27 years old. We haven't seen a whole lot of him. He got knocked out, I think, on short notice against D-Rod. He had that fight against Evan Elder. He had like 1 million minutes of control time, a bunch of arm triangle attempts, couldn't get the job done. I'm not sure where to put him in this fight, but both guys have good grappling. Giles on the defensive, Parsons probably on the offensive. I think Giles is the better striking, and this is like a dead 50-50 pick him on the money line for a good reason. Because after the last fight with Trevin Giles and Louis Koski, like just a low volume, low effort of Trevin Giles. If you're not pushing him in the striking, he's not going to have any volume to like counter you with. I could see him getting taken down and but maybe he could scramble to a advantageous position and ride out. We've seen that happen before, right? Like some of the greasier fights with grapplers, like the one against James Krause, the one against Roman Dolidze, say like it's kind of a back and forth on the mat with Giles. He's a slippery guy. I slightly edge Giles. I just feel like I've got this hunch that he's going to end up getting some control time here and then doing some okay work on the feet. Split decision written all over it, in my opinion. But how do you feel about this fight, man? I really don't know how to attack this at all.
Yeah, you spoke my language, though. You said split decision at the end there. My eyes
peaked. There we are.
You piqued my interest. Yeah, no, I don't have a fucking clue on this fight. No, I lean Giles, but his fight IQ is shit, and his decision making is just really, really bad. He's a Jekyll and Hyde fighter. He can fight really, really, really well, and you're like, see, this is why. I bet Giles and and he can make just some of the worst decisions, either attacking and he bonks some dude and then he clinches him after, and he gets bonked and he goes toe to toe and he just doesn't make right decisions. I feel like Preston Parsons too is being overinflated because he beat a guy that was moving up in weight from 155 to 170. And on short notice, right? And
I forgot about that. Yeah, he was up that weight class on like 5 days' notice.
And he's fighting, and it's a grapple, so it's a grapple fuck. So it's like not only is he's the weight matters at that point. So like the size and the fact that he's going, like the only reason that he's going up is because he doesn't have time to cut weight. So he's like, all right, so you're good. Now just stay at 170 and stay whatever your normal weight is. But then this other dude's going to be cutting to 170 and then will be 180 to 182 by the time he's in the ring. He's going to be massive compared to him, which was exactly what happened in the fight. So I think that it's like you said, I think if he's not able to get Giles down to the ground like consistently, I don't think he's good on the feet, and I feel like he shells up when guys hit him. So like I don't know. The problem is again with Giles, like you just don't know what the hell he's going to do. You don't know. He could throw like 35 to 50 strikes. And you're like, dude, fucking kill this guy. He can't do shit on the feet. Like you got him, and then just give him enough time to like push him to the cage. Like, so I don't really. Neither one of these guys is like. Again, there's a bunch of these guys. It's like neither one of these guys is worth like betting. Like it's not you're not getting good lines on either side, and the props. There's like 6 different props I see could potentially happen. So I'm like, fuck this fight.
Yeah, and Giles is such a confusing case because he had that back and forth career at middleweight, now at welterweight. Like he's still a young guy at 30 years old, but I feel like the wind is out of his sails. Like I don't often get into like the mentality of fighters. I just think it's too hard to really handicap, so I just stay out of it. But like you got to think that a guy like Preston Parsons at 27, he really hasn't like had the wind taken out of his sails yet. Like he might be hungrier in this spot than Trevin Giles, who's maybe just knows he's going to be middle of the pack at the weight class for a while. I do slightly edge Trevin Giles, but that fight to be won by split or majority plus 900, this could be a greasy back and forth one where Giles has the better moments in the feet, working the jab, and then Preston gets him down. It's not hard to take down Trevin Giles. But
did you say ends split is 9-1?
Yep, fight to be won by split or majority on DK right now is plus 900.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. That's
fantastic because like the same, like, yeah, dude, this fight could easily be split. Both could have total success midway through rounds. Yeah, that's great.
All right, I'm writing that one down. I like that. I didn't look at that beforehand, but that's kind of how I see this playing out. And the money line would agree, right? It's 50-50, so they assume it's going to be close.
What is the fight goes?
Just fight goes the distance is plus 175 for it to go.
That's why. I mean, that's just 9-1, and that is insane. Like for just fight ends that's an insane line.
Yeah, these numbers don't really make that much. Now that I'm looking at it, it's really confusing. Like, why is this fight not slated to go to the distance minus 250? I know there's been a lot of, Preston Parsons doesn't really win decisions. That's probably largely why, right? I know Trevin Giles is a finisher, but lately it seems like it's depending on who the opponent is, right? Like he's facing killers like Michael Morales, who's like just the genetic beast at the weight class. Then before that, Dricus du Plessis, who's a killer, be killed savage. Like normally most people I feel like aren't taking Trevin Giles out. You know what I mean? Like
one of the lines shouldn't be what it is. It can't be like minus 200 or minus 220 on fight go or doesn't go, and then you're saying plus 900 and like it should be like minus 400, minus 500 if you're getting a ends split at plus 900, plus 1,000. Like it should be like so out of whack because you're saying this fight is not going. So like if the fight goes, like you'll see in fights that go, you'll be like plus 350, plus 400, something like that. In fights that they're very, very confident will go to decision, you'll get that. So like your minus 200 should not, it should be like around the plus 500 to 600 range.
Like fight to go to the distance on DraftKings minus 250 for the no, for fight not to go. So yeah, I think they're looking at the recency bias of like Trevin Giles getting finished. You've got Preston Parsons finishing most of his opponents, but I just feel like it's just going to be a different level of competition now, and these guys might stalemate. So
yeah, they've just all been finished on all of their losses. They got finished, so it's basically the books are just like they've never seen these guys lose a decision. So in there, but that's what I'm saying. Like then the fight doesn't go. Should be way, way more juice than it is.
Yeah.
One of the lines is off. I'm not saying I know which one it is, but one of the lines is clearly not right. Those don't.
Shout out to my guy Cody, Blood Money MMA Bets. Everybody go check out his channel. Does awesome work. He's going to kill it this weekend. Always very transparent with his betting action. And him and Papa Chuck are liking your Steelers country background. So I missed this in the chat. I feel like Papa Chuck had a question about it. Do we see here? Here we are. I don't know anything about football. All I know is mixed martial arts. You gotta answer this one, Tim.
My dog was named Bettis. My dog.
Okay.
Yeah,
so that answers it.
Your answer right there.
There we go. All right. So let's see here. Moving on we're on Lucas Alexander and Steven Peterson up next. This is a lightweight bout. Featherweight bout right now. Got the durable task ahead of Lucas Alexander and Steven Peterson. I think he's from Texas too. Hometown advantage here. Never been submitted. He's been knocked out one time. Just a durable guy. 19-10 record. And I really didn't think we'd be seeing Steven Peterson in the UFC this long. He's kind of gotten better in some aspects, but still kind of like a bottom of the barrel gatekeeper. The guys he's beat, you just never hear or see these guys' names again, besides Chase Hooper, who's hit or miss. Lucas Alexander, I feel like he's getting disrespected on this line, man. Like he's an underdog. I put a unit on him at plus 130 or plus 135. I think he's a very athletic guy, and he's going to be able to counter-strike effectively moving backwards, which I love with his game. Not the most powerful boxer, but he's accurate. He's got decent cardio, good get-up ability, and I just think Steven Peterson's going to walk into strikes all night. Whether he gets finished or not, I could see Alexander winning this fight. And I feel like they're disrespecting Alexander, man, because he got, his back was taken from a standing position against Brito. He got choked out. But besides that, like I just feel like skill set-wise, he should be able to really put up more points on the board here. So the money line is what I like so far, but who do you like in this spot? Are you taking Steven Peterson?
Unfortunately, my prediction is Steven Peterson. Yes.
Okay.
I don't have any money on it. No stake in the game, so I'll be rooting for you.
How's this play out?
I'm not too high on Alexander, honestly. I've seen some fights where he's got some quit in his game, and to me, like he also just makes some really, really bad mistakes on the ground, and I feel like there's just a blatantly obvious path for Peterson here to just take him down and clinch him and take him down and eventually take his back. And Brito's a different beast. I mean, like he's an absolutely different beast than Steven Peterson. So I'm not trying to like compare them, but dude, Peterson had Erosa on skates. Like he's not shit. Like he's not he's not a bad fighter. Like he's really durable. He's just slow as molasses. And he's just not athletic. He's just one of those guys that, like, because of his lack of athleticism, he better be durable, and he is. So eventually, in a couple of years, or probably at a couple, I don't know, 3 to 4 fights, this will be the guy that I'll be betting is going to get knocked out a lot after this. Like he's just not, but he still has a few fights to just take like Homer Simpson defense and just keep coming forward and eventually get this guy down. And I just feel like that's too easy of a path for him here. And, I actually bet Brito by sub and Brito by sub round 1 against him. And again, I see totally different beast, totally different beast than Steven Peterson. But Peterson can grapple, and he's not an idiot on the ground. So I do feel like if it's a lot closer. Probably line's right if it's just just striking. But it's funny. I think the line is right if it's just striking, it's it's a close fight, but I don't think that it's going to be just striking.
Yeah, no, I could see that happening. I'm hoping that Alexander, starts early with those leg kicks and just really is the more, the faster mover, cuts angles and doesn't get himself trapped on the cage. I have seen Alexander stalemated on the cage before. I feel like he's getting better at then circling off, but it does take him some time. So, I think it's a matter of when. Sometimes we get these fights where it's like, does Steven Peterson get the takedown within a minute or like before that halfway round of round one, or is he outstruck for half of the round and then he gets the takedown and then they got a battle between control time versus striking, right? The constant battle we face. So I think it's a matter of not if, but like when each guy employs their game plan in the fight. So I'm riding with the dog here, but as far as we're riding with the durability, I do think this does go over just because of that. And we haven't seen a whole lot of power from Alexander, although he did break the arm of who was that, Jacob Kilborn, former UFC fighter, before coming to the UFC. Like he threw a body kick and that got blocked and just instantly broke the arm of Jacob Kilborn. He had to quit mid-round, but overall, I'm not too worried about like a knockout threat here from really either guy, unless Steven Peterson really breaks him, really crowds the kicker, and then boxes him up close. I could see this probably going over. But an interesting fight, man. Like this is like one of the. I think that has like a good potential to be like a really exciting fight, just because you got one guy being the sniper, one being the zombie. That's always a fun dynamic to have. So. Featherweight bout up next. We do have Daniel Pineda and Tucker Lutz. And this should be a really fun fight as well, man, for as long as it lasts. Like, Daniel Pineda's a savage. He's had a pretty exciting career, only going to decision like 5 times out of something crazy. Like 44 professional fights. Not been the best lately. Both guys coming off of a long layoff. I think there was some sort of maybe like a knee injury or something from Tucker Lutz he had to recover from. But I like his skill set, man. Good wrestle boxing skill set. Muay Thai is improving to match his wrestling for Tucker Lutz. And the money line right now, it's a bit wide. Let's see here. We're looking at Tucker Lutz around the minus 285 price tag. Daniel Pineda plus 245 underdog. Unfortunately, I think the money line does make sense. It's wide because both guys are coming off a layoff, but I don't have any bets on this at this point. I would like some Tucker Lutz. How do I attack this? And who do you have in this fight?
I would attack it live. Wait a little bit. Mm-hmm. And like Pineda is super front loaded. He's like a round one type of fighter. So it's like same thing. So you're banking. Now these types of fights, you can always lose in doing that and lose your opportunity to bet it. But
right. I was just going to ask you that, right? Like there's a good chance that you might not happen.
That happens for sure. But like, in a fight where your prediction is that the person's going to make a comeback and that the other person is front loaded where they're going to have more success, it's like, why bet Drew Dober minus 160 versus Terrence McKinney if you expect Terrence McKinney to go Terrence McKinney?
Sure,
these are the same type of, like, Pineda's like not that same full rabies, but he's old and gassy. Like, I just feel like he's got 5 to 6 minutes to do what he needs to do, and if he doesn't get that done, like you said, he has 0 wins he's fought enough. Like, he's fought over 30 times, and the dude has 0 wins by decision. So
0 and 5 by decision is the record for Pineda.
And this is where it gets interesting. Like, you can bet live at, like, as soon as you wait for like a big moment or a takedown or something from on the other side, you're waiting for the other side to have success. As soon as they have success and the number comes down 50 cents, you take your shot, or it comes down $1, take your shot. And then it probably won't get better. So then after that point, you've got your live bet, and then round 2, round 3, the only issue with round 2, round 3 on Tucker is it's like he's not normally like a finisher. Like, he just doesn't always show those kind of instincts. But it's that's where you have to take your shot. Do you think points at plus 250 or round 2, round 3? So like both the points isn't a bad enough line where you could actually take a shot on all 3 if you wanted to, but it's like points plus 250, round 3 is like, I don't know, 10-1 or something like that, or more than that. And then, if you're taking those as your shots, you have 3 shots at all plus money. But I don't think that's a good way to go. They're not like great lines. But if you took any one of those past, you think he finishes late, take those shots in round 2, round 3, and hit him live at the end of round 1. If you feel like that Pineda is going to last, and you feel like he's durable enough, he's just getting killed against guys that are actual murderers, and he's fought a lot better competition, and this guy isn't going to finish him, but he's definitely going to win, then take Tucker by points at plus 250. That seems solid. He's probably going to win round 2 and round 3, and he might win round 1 as well. So it's like you can pretty much hit either way of those, and whichever way you feel it's going.
See, what I was going to ask you was, and you kind of answered it because you're taking the live betting, the props perspective, even live after round one. Like for a money line, like we're looking at minus 285 pre-flop on Tucker Lutz, right? What money line would you? So you wouldn't even consider a money line, or like what money line would you expect to get after round two that you would bet? Is there one, or would he would have to get his ass kicked in round one, survive, and then know that you've got a diminished?
Yeah, I think it's like you're waiting for him to like lose a moment in round one or early in round one or get taken down in round one, and then you're like hoping for like minus 180, or you're hoping for like, you know what I'm saying, like something, or minus 150 if
Right.
he's held down
better, right?
He's held down for the first half of the round or whatever, or he's clearly losing the first half of the round. It's like, okay, now you're going to get like from minus 280, you're going to get something like Miller. Like as I said about Miller last week, she was minus 400 to start the fight. Like she's minus 400 to start the fight and clearly lost the entire first round. And she was still minus money, like only after the round was done. And then people had been hammering the absolute dog shit out of that line. Did she finally go plus money before the second round started? So like that's when Miller went. So it's like, you have in those type of fights with such a big line, like if he has success early, that it'll probably come down like a 50 cents to $1, and then it might be playable in your mind if like minus 180 for a guy that you feel the other guy doesn't have any win potential in round 2 or 3. Then it's like minus 180s, you're set. You're like you're pretty much you're getting a 75% at 66.
Now, just to hammer this point home, because I'm a little bit of a simpleton with this and it's just new information, but say we got Tucker Lutz by decision right now on DraftKings plus 300 before the fight starts. Say he loses that round one, and you're looking at, would you still be looking at, what would you want to see for decision? Would that adjust then to be, it's even less of an outcome since he's lost a third of the fight, or what would you be accepting for that one? If you're taking Tucker Lutz by points, he loses round one, live bet, what would you be looking for and what would you accept for that number?
That's why I think that 3-1 is great for him by points. Like I just think that that's also a great line it's a great line to hedge if you feel that he finishes them in round 2 or round 3. So you're just like, you know what I'm saying? Like if he takes over, if he's
going to get 3-1, whether your other bets, cash or not.
For sure. Yeah. If you get, and then if you have 3-1 on the decision, and then he either finishes them in round 1 or round 2, and you're getting minus 150 to minus 200 as opposed to minus 280 or minus whatever it's starting at, like those aren't bad.
Yeah, I'm just using that as an example. I'm not really sure if Tucker Lutz gets this job done into the distance or not. Like I said, we haven't seen him in some time, so I'm leaning like he could. I think he could get that inside the distance finish come round 2 or round 3. He's got really good boxing. He can only be improving at 28. I still watched an interview of him. He didn't seem too bothered. Like he did have a long lasting injury. It was like that's why I think it was a knee. He didn't disclose it, but I think it was like a 6 to 7 month recovery time, he said. But 28 years old, the guy's got a good skill set. I think he should do pretty well and probably put away. We've seen how slow Daniel Pineda's looked. Like he got knocked out by Cub Swanson, like pieced up, saw the strike coming a mile away, did not react and got knocked out cold, like knocked down 3 times in that fight. I think Tucker Lutz could do the exact same here. So that's the side I'm on. But yeah, thanks for that live betting strategy. I can't get enough of that hearing you talk about those because it's just new information and a new way to bet for me that I really just don't do at all. So I'm sure people appreciate that. But we do have a fun money line up next. I think a playable one on Chidi Njokuani at minus 160 is where I got it at. I am on the Chidi side versus Albert Duraev. Let's see what that is now. I don't think it's too far off. Minus 160, minus 165 for Njokuani, plus 140 for Albert Duraev. Man, I'm just Albert Duraev, like he looked better on the regionals and ACB, comes into the Contender Series, takes on a Brazilian fighter who's never seen a Russian before in his life. That goes, as you would expect, ends round 1 sub for Duraev. But man, getting his eye swollen shut against Kopylov, gassing out, getting his eye swollen shut against Joaquin Buckley, getting the shit knocked out of him, gassing out. Chidi Njokuani has at least showed improvements, and Albert Duraev is looking the same or like worse at the UFC level, right? So I'm taking the measurables, 80-inch reach, the big striking weapons, and the improved, sort of anti-wrestling we've seen from Njokuani. I just think he can probably get this done inside the distance here. How do you feel about this fight? I do have 2 units at minus 160 on Chidi.
Yeah, I think it's a very binary fight. Just both guys are not going to want to fuck around really with the other one in their strength. And, it's classic striker versus grappler fight. So, Also, both guys are just notorious quitters, which is always great if you're looking at unders and things like that. I don't know, man. Like the reason why I go on the Chidi side in this fight is because I kind of feel like Duraev's wrestling ability is a little bit overrated.
That's not good. I don't think it's that good. I agree with you.
Yeah, I just feel like it's a little bit overrated, and I just don't know that. Like he has to get this fight to the ground. He absolutely must get this fight to the ground. And even if he gets this fight to the ground in the second round, he needs to get this fight to the ground. And then they'll both be, you know, third round. I think both of these guys, like if it gets to the third round, which I don't think it will, this could be a complete slobber knocker in round 3, and both guys could be shit. But both guys could be shit, and I still think that Chidi still has the power that at any point he could at any point hit him once and knock him out. So to me, that's the biggest factor. So I agree with Victor. I think that Chidi KO1 is my prediction would be Chidi KO1. But you know, if the takedown, it's a bigger ring too, which is a bigger cage ring, and I just think that that's a big factor for staying away and not having the angles being cut off so easily and being able to clinch on the cage. So I think it'll be harder for Duraev to get him down and to get those positions. Yeah, he'll do that.
Victor's saying, yeah, Chidi's going to talk with that deep ass voice to Duraev, and his eyes going to be swollen. Yeah, man, I agree with that. God damn, yeah. I think you're right though. Like the Duraev last name, the ACB title run, like that just really makes you think that he's, you know, like going to have like a Merab Dvalishvili performance, which would be the best bet. But this guy always tests the water with the striking before he ends up going to the wrestling. And then it becomes desperate. He's got like half of his vision at that point. His face is swollen. And then he's diving like a mile out for takedowns. How's that going to go against the 80-inch reach of Chidi Njokuani with, you know, presumably longer legs even? Like I feel like he could just knee Duraev in the face the way he did RoboCop last time and the job this time. So I do like this probably within no more than round 3 would it take for him to get this job done inside the distance. But just took that money. I thought the money line was fair enough the way it was. Am I wrong, or did this open up? I think this might have opened as an underdog for Chidi in this spot, which would have been wild to get on that action. But almost forgot to say what's up to my guy Effie from the Any Action Sportscast. Everybody go give his channel a subscribe, man. He does awesome work. He is out there living in Las Vegas, man. Goes to all the press stuff that goes on in the UFC. Gets the inside scoop and some fighter interviews as well. Sharp guy, Effie. Always appreciate having you in here. Along with the GOAT, my guy Tajik Bey. What is going on, my friend? Good to see you in the chat. Along with my guy MMA Bet Shady. Always dropping the best emojis in the game, man. Good to have you in here, my friend. So, yeah, we're on the same side of that one, Tim. I'm glad. And they're not going to give us much respect with that prop, that round 1 knockout. I think it's like plus 240 on DraftKings for Chidi round 1 KO. But, yeah, I think the money line is fair, to be honest. So moving on to another spot. This is one of my bigger money lines of the card. Alex Perez taking on Manel Kape at flyweight. Always an exciting fight when he got my boy Starboy in there. Unfortunately, I just got to preface this with maybe this fight might not take place because Alex Perez is notorious for making us break down fights again and again and talk about Matt Schnell versus Alex Perez like 5 goddamn times. The fight doesn't take place. One of them gets hauled off in the ambulance before they even make it to the scales. That could happen here, man. And that's part of why I'm fading Alex Perez. I like the skill set of Manel Kape, and I do have 3 units on him at minus 170. Just think he's a more athletic guy, faster, a little bit low volume. That does worry me. You know, sometimes in the past he's played jiu-jitsu off of his back, which used to worry me, and he's lost fights that way. But, man, we saw his last performance against Dvorak. He was not only threatening and sweeping with the Kimura, but actually like almost cranking the arm right off if he didn't get saved by the buzzer there. So I like the game plan of Manel Kape. His skill set is coming along. He's catching his footing with a 3-fight winning streak. Alex Perez, man, we haven't seen him taste victory in several years now. So am I overlooking Alex Perez here? Or is there some value at that plus 145 money line? Are there some props from Perez that you like here?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think, first of all, I'll say that I'm on the Kape side. I think that either side in this fight could hindsight look like a humongous favorite, though. So, like, I just don't think that, you know, like that's the one thing. Like, if if Perez is able to get takedowns, and he's a very good wrestler, and if he's not threatened by like, I mean, the dudes that he's been fighting have been fucking killers. So like, if you're saying like Figgy to Pantoja, and then you're like Kape, and you're like, okay, like I'm not like the threat of, and of course I say this, of course Kape's gonna like insta sub him now, right? But like the fact of like Kape subbing him compared to Pantoja, I bet Pantoja by sub, and I bet Pantoja early by sub on him. Like this is like, it was a no brainer bet like that. It's just, and I actually also bet Figgy by sub on him too. So it's like, I just kind of feel like the guy shows against certain type of grapplers that he will put his neck in bad spots, and he will constantly try to keep grappling. He'll constantly try to get you to the ground. And I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like Kape is, he can be taken down. Dvorak's not great in that realm, and he was able to get him down. So like, that's kind of my hesitancy on betting Kape really big in this spot. But I think he is significantly more athletic. The problem also with Kape in some fights is that he is extremely low volume in a lot of fights, and he expects to land the big moments, and he fights very, very close. Like the Nicolau fight could have easily been won. All he needed to do is pump out 10 to 20% more volume, and he wins that fight handily. You could watch a lot of his fights like that. You could watch a lot of fights and just say like, damn, this guy fights way too close. So to say like Perez by split decision, or say Perez by points, and that he literally gets him down and gets 4 or 5 takedowns and is able to hold him and just get really good positions and some ground and pound, and, you know, stay safe on the ground. Like that's totally viable to me. Like, I don't think that it's, you know, I don't think that it's my prediction, but I think that that's definitely possible in this fight. So, but I also see like Kape just like bonking the living shit out of him too. So, you know, that to me is more what I see happening more is I just feel like on the feet, eventually Kape's going to catch him with some stuff that he's not going to want to like, and not going to like. And then he you know what I said about Kape subbing him, like I could see a club and sub happening more than you know, he's on his back and he like guard subs him. I just don't see the guard sub happening as much. I could see potentially a club like comes in and he sinks a Gillian on something like that. You know, like I just don't think he's going to have to be concussed, you know, but I think the bonk is way more there for Kape.
I think so, especially when you combine with the, like I said at the top, the frustrating weight cutting issue of Alex Perez, maybe going to be a diminished version of himself if he can find a way to you know, make weight successfully. You know, that would lead me towards the unders in this fight, but what doesn't is waiting for the big moment of Manel Kape at flyweight. I mean, it's been working so far, and the guy is a finisher. In fact, I was super excited for Manel Kape to make it to the UFC. Like, I thought the guy was super, just a stud over in Risen. You know, a 3-fight finishing streak. I mean, over some good guys too, like Kaya Sakura before he came in, and then he has the performances like against Pantoja, where, you know, they could have done more. The fight against Nicolau, like you said, could have gone his way. And I had almost like closed the book and put it away of Manel Kape, you know, but then he comes in and he has round one finish, and now the David Dvorak, you know, domination. So back on the Kape side, you know. So
sorry, look at those two guys that you said. Like his first 2 fights in the UFC were Mateus Nicolau and Pantoja.
Yeah,
right. Like,
yeah. So but he was actually the alternate when I think when Figgy and Moreno were going to face off. Like, I think they before his debut, they fought. They were going to have Kape, like he weighed in. He was going to be the alternate in case one of them couldn't make it.
Was it Pantoja for Kape in the second one? Who was his second? I think I messed that
Nicolau. Up. No, Pantoja was the first. Nicolau was the
second. Pantoja, and then it's just that's a murderer's row right there starting off.
Yeah, and he's always calm and cool and collected, but yeah, I think he's going to certainly have enough. And now that I saw that he's able to like sweep and get out of a bad position, show some urgency on the ground. Not that, you know, it's the grappling skill of what he just went through against Dvorak and Perez are comparable. But man, it could be after sucking himself dry with this weight cut, you know, if he even makes it to the damn cage. So I got 3 units on Manel Kape minus 170. I like that. What do you think about like the finish props for Kape in this one? Anything sticking out for that? We're looking at Kape. Oh, man, they're kind of boning us here. Manel Kape by KO plus 150, sub plus 600. We can't work with that. Yeah, okay, never mind. For a flyweight fight, man, I hate when they bone us for the flyweight fights.
What is the inside the distance prop
for Manel Kape? inside the distance. So look at the double chance here, plus 120.
Yeah, like what I like to do in those situations a lot of times is not bet the KO, just bet the inside the distance, and then take a small stab on the other prop that if I feel it's viable. So like if you feel like the sub prop at plus 600 is actually a good way to go, then don't hit up the KO at all and like put the money towards the plus 120 and then hit the sub at like put 90%, whatever percent you want to go, but like 90, say 90-10, and you put to the inside the distance 90 and then 10% on the sub prop. It's okay. Like, yeah, I like doing it that way. A lot of times it's like, for instance, like one of my favorite ones last year was Ricky Simone versus Jack Shore. It was like inside the distance was like plus 300. KO was like plus 600 and sub was plus 1600. And I'm like, dude, I think he subs him. But I'm like, I'm going to bet the sub prop and I'm going to bet the inside the distance because the KO kind of sucks. And I just feel it's a good way to go. You can cover both bases and win both bets.
Yeah, because that's the most frustrating thing you hear from people is when they bet submission and the guy knocks him out, or they bet knockout and then he knocks him down, jumps on the neck.
Round three, round two, always like Narco and I always will talk about that on the show. Like we've lost. It's the same thing. We've lost too many of them like that, where you're like round two sub, round three sub, and you're like, dude, just round two, round three, and then if you want to hit round two, round three sub as well, like do it as much as you want to bet it. That's perfectly fine, but like just hit round two, round three, just to make sure. And then when you hit them both, it's like, this is awesome. I've cashed both.
I like that. That's slick strategy, especially when you quantify it. I think people do like hearing that because I know I do as just like people who watch breakdowns of and seeing how people gamble in different ways is, you might say like, oh, you should play both. Play, the inside the distance and play the knockout if you think it goes that way. But like saying that you're doing it 90%, 10%, that makes sense. Like, 0.9 units, 0.1 unit, whatever it might be. Like just having to be able to quantify it for people, I think is important too. Otherwise, people don't know what the hell they're doing. They're throwing, a unit stab on both or whatever it might be, and, kind of clueless. So, so that's good to quantify that. And along the lines of like getting both sides, man, I've been loving the same game parlays on DraftKings for some of these things. Like if you combine, say it was like Marc-Andre Barrios a couple weeks ago over Julian Marquez, like betting having the option to bet like same game parlay, Marc-Andre Barrios, knockout, and then after 4.5 minutes or after 5.5 minutes, and you can get a better line that way with the parlay. I love that on DraftKings. And my guy Lou Betya from the MMA Engine is actually debuting that a sort of program, like probably a shorter format video, just going over same game parlay ideas. And I think that's a brilliant idea to do. So shout out to the MMA Engine for that. I can't wait to see that debut. But we got up next a flyweight bout between Andrea KGB Lee and Maycee Barber. This is it's a spot where I like Maycee Barber, but not at the money line, Tim. Like the money line, I think is a bit much, and it could play out closer. It could play out exactly how the money line is at minus 275 Barber, plus 215 Andrea Lee. You've got a 10-year youth advantage for Maycee Barber. I think she's going to be able to play the bully and walk through, absorb some strikes, and close the distance and start cage wrestling, get the fight to the mat. She's been at Team Alpha Male. The clinch work looks better. She can use her physicality and strength, and I think she's going to get better into a fight, even if she's not doing well early. Whereas Lee, I think, goes the opposite. If things aren't going smoothly for her, she tends to fold at times. But at distance, like say Maycee Barber gets stuck at the end of the strikes of Andrea Lee, way better technical striking from Andrea Lee. So that would be how I would see Barber losing if she can't close the distance. But I think she's going to be able to just kind of barrage her way through the strikes. No action on this one so far. How do you see this playing out? Do you think the money line is correct, or how would you line this fight?
No, I can't say that the money line is correct in this fight. I understand anybody taking a money line stab on Andrea Lee at this fight. I don't necessarily like. Here's what I bet on this fight. I have a small bet on this fight so far, but this is like, I don't think it's like a high percentage play, but it's like 12-1 Andrea Lee to win by split decision, or like fight ends in split decision is like I think 4 or 5-1. I think that's her path. I think that she could win the striking very close, and she gets clinched a little bit. Barber, like you said, Barber is a fighter that you'd rather see like a 4th round and a 5th round, and she gets better as the fight gets going. She gets more aggressive. Her striking is like, I just am not confident at all in her striking. But at the same time, she's 24 years old, and these are the ages that people just make just huge jumps in different levels in their game. I'm not saying that I can, that's predictive, but I do feel like again, the money line is just kind of stupid. Like if you told me minus 180 Barber, fine. Minus 200, okay, great. But like this is kind of out of whack. I like you said, the biggest thing for me that is the reason why I'm saying all this shit and I'm not betting on Andrea Lee is because the physicality and women's MMA is just the physicality difference is just so much the difference, and it's not as the skills just. I'm not saying that they don't matter, but it's like they don't matter as much, and definitely not as much if you get one just pushing them to the cage and doing what they want from that position. So I kind of feel like that's what Macy has her edge. And I do also feel that if Macy does get her down on the ground, especially like as the fight gets going, she is live late in the fight. Like I don't hate round 3 for Barber or decision by Barber. I just think that those are kind of like her paths as well.
I agree.
So I like small stabs at those aren't terrible. Getting her money line down by points, it's most likely gonna go. I wouldn't be shocked if it's close. So yeah, I lean the Barber side. I feel she's way more physical, and she'll probably get the clinch and maybe a takedown.
Yeah, it's one of those spots where you could certainly have that split being live just due to distance striking. You're looking better optically, landing some bigger punches that kind of turn the head of Macy Barber as she's rushing in to close the distance, right? And then she clinches up, and maybe it's not very active in the clinch, right? Maybe the judges are like, we saw a lot of examples last week on that card where like one judge in particular just wouldn't care about grappling at all. Like he only saw strikes. Anything that wasn't, a boxing, kickboxing match, he kind of probably just ignored. So you could have that thing, and that could make it a split if we have that sort of judging from last week. But the late round prop, Macy Barber round 3 plus 1,200. Is that for a women's flyweight fight? Macy Barber is kind of a finisher. She broke into the scene in the UFC. Not high level opposition at all. But she did get like 3 inside the distance stoppages. Do you think she's the more likely woman to get a finish here?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think like the points and split are Andrea Lee's kind of paths in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. Again, I just think it's going to be cleaner striking, but just not, like you said, the physicality of Barber, just the aggressiveness. 24 years old, a full decade younger. She could be making improvements. I think she wins this fight. But yeah, that's just the money line is just wild, man. I can't get behind it. I think it does play out at least a little bit closer.
Two huge like favorites in women's MMA lost in the last 2 weeks. I think exactly these lines.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with picking the side in women's MMA, but the line has to make sense. You got to factor in that this probably will see the scorecards more likely than not. So something I'm probably staying away from, but it should be a fun fight, man. Like it should be. I like seeing Macy Barber crash the pocket. Like she's questionable at times, but just making it like a fun, sloppy fight where there's a lot of activity. Her ground and pound is nasty too. And now that she's maybe shoring up that hole in her game with the wrestling, her ability to transition from the feet to the ground to get that ground and pound, she's got nasty punches and elbows that we saw early on. So kind of rooting for Macy Barber. She does have a bigger ceiling here in the UFC, but we can move on. We're sort of on the same side there, but yeah, I hope your Andrea Lee split cashes just to really screw things up and cash for you. But we got an awesome fight up next at featherweight. One of my favorite guys, man, Nate the Train Landwehr taking on Austin Lingo. And both of these guys were supposed to have different opponents, right? We're supposed to see one of my other favorite fighters, man, Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres, longtime UFC veteran, was supposed to take on Nate Landwehr, and he was a sizable favorite, like minus 160, minus 170 over Nate. So I think that's interesting to think about where these guys were aligned with their previous opponents, because Austin Lingo supposed to take on Ricardo Ramos a couple of weeks back, and Ramos missed weight drastically. And Austin Lingo as well, like a plus 300 underdog against that guy. Like that line got steamed. So now we're getting a little bit more in the middle. We're getting minus 225 or so for, let's come down a bit, minus 205 for Nate Landwehr, plus 175 Austin Lingo. I just think Nate Landwehr just, again, you're probably going to say this is a good live betting spot. I did live bet him against David Onama the last time out and got a nice juicy number going into round 2. In round 3, it was kind of a sweat, but I think Nate Landwehr actually is getting a little bit more disciplined, a little bit more of a better game plan. The guy is probably going to eat punches to wake himself up in round 1, but he should take over. Better technical boxing from Lingo, but he's kind of one-dimensional with that. Nate Landwehr should have the better clinch work, better dirty boxing. And I could see him getting I'm calling like a round 3 sub for Nate Landwehr. I think he's always diving on necks. Hasn't always worked out for him, but against this guy who's more of just like a straight-up boxer, Muay Thai fighter in Lingo, I think he could get his neck snatched up later in the fight. Break this fight down for me, Tim. Do you have any action on this one so far?
I do. I have bet sub by Landwehr by sub 9-1.
Nice.
Sub 2, sub 3. I do feel the same way. Like I kind of feel like he's just a better version of Lingo and does the same shit and just is, like more reckless. I don't like the money from money line standpoint. I hate betting Landwehr as a favorite, and he's great to bet as the dog, but he's just kind of a shit favorite to have to rely on. He's not reliable. He can get bonked, and he's going to do stupid shit. Like that's a lot of times he just does really dumb shit. So I feel like that's why the line is kind of where it's at. I do feel like it could be a little bit like skill wise, it could be more, but I just feel it's baked into the line that he doesn't fight intelligently all the time. So yeah, I like round 2, round 3 props for him are pretty solid. The only thing about it is that Lingo's never been finished, but I don't know that he's necessarily had a kind of a war like this before. So we'll see if he lasts and he's durable, then that's fine. But I think that the people that are taking shots on the sub prop at 9-1 for him, like this is the classic what we were talking about. Like it's just the books will be like he's got 8 KOs, he's got 1 sub. So here's your 9-1, here's your 10%. And if you want to take your shot at it, that's fine. It's like you need context in that because the dude is subbing, like he's going for subs. He's got a good Dars, he's got a good front choke head series. Like he's that.
How many times, Tim, did he go for a choke on Onama from different positions, just slide right off?
That's the thing. Like so, unless they actually pay out people and they like have some way of looking at it in their books and accounting for it, they're not going to line it that way. So there's no like, the context of that fight, it should be actually 5-1. It's like, no, it's fucking algorithm that says it should be 9-1. It's 10%. And here's what we're going to give you. So I feel like it's just, that's how you attack these. So you, in this situation, if you feel like, you're on the Landwehr side, you could attack the inside the distance and then the sub and cover both bases. And then you could do round 2 or round 3, and then you could do round 2 or round 3 by sub. And then you're like, when the sub happens in round 1, you're covered. Now you're covered on inside the distance, you're covered by sub. If the sub or if the KO happens in round 2, you've got inside the distance and you got your round 2. So this is one of the ways that like I've made a lot of my prop money, but it also people are like, well, how do you like you said, quantify what I'm sizing my bets? It's like, that's the key. That's the major part of doing it is like, you have to be willing to lose in this situation. If you feel like you're super confident that De Silva is losing his fight the way that I said he was going to lose the fight, dude, I might lose 5 bets on that fight. Like, but at the same time, like that to me is a situation where I will make that bet 100 times out of 100 because it's going to win 80 times. So I'll make 5 bets and I'll lose the 20 times and I'll lose 100 of those bets and I'm going to cash the other fucking 400. So it's like, to me, it doesn't, you just got to process over results and not hate the loss as much and be like, yeah, I'm not going to cash all these, but occasionally you get those, dude, sub 2. And then you're like, all right, inside the distance, sub round 2, sub 2. And you're like, I just cashed a fucking bag. And you're like, I have a very, very tiny bit of money. And that's what's great about props is like, it's great to build your bankroll. You just investing a very small amount of money and you have huge payouts for them. So it's like, whereas you're just getting the opposite side with money lines.
Yeah. And I think I'll start doing that because I was just a typical, juiced parlay boy, that we were talking about before we got on stream, and it's like, that's a good way. And I got lucky in 2021, 2020 with like really big parlays, progressive parlays, especially just slowly building your base investment on like some good favorites and then slowly adding on. And there's sometimes I would sweep the whole card and I made a pretty good, like my starting bankroll with that. 2022 is a big difference, right? Because then I realized like I might have just had like luck going into a lot of those because now we're seeing the injuries. Now we're seeing, but what I'm comparing this to is like instead of parlaying a bunch of fights together, that are, not correlated at all. You're correlating a large amount of money that could be paid out in one fight, right? And they're all correlated in a way. And I think that's a better strategy now, probably than parlaying things together because they're not correlated. Does that make sense?
100%. That's exactly what you're saying with the same game parlay. Like they're just terrible lines a lot of times where the exact way that you're seeing a fighter win and his potential of winning, like how do you give, like Islam versus Volk, and you go like his money line is shit, and then you're like, how do I get this down? And you go like most takedowns, take one takedown in round one, and you're like even money, and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like he's gonna get a takedown, he's gonna have most takedowns, and then it's basically you're just now that's that, like, so you're just correlating, like you're saying, like you're just trying to find. And a lot of times, like Rip's saying, like, the props are actually a better line. You'll get better numbers some of the time. Sometimes they're worse, but sometimes you might do sub Ramos last week versus Lingo. You could do that in a same game parlay and get plus 300 versus plus 240. So it's like you just have to fiddle around with it, and you'll get better lines sometimes.
Gotcha. And we're looking at. I appreciate all of that insight. That's just gold that Tim is spitting for us all. 29 of us in the live chat right now. Appreciate you guys. Ice Viking asking if Nate puts himself. I think Nate is actually like Austin Lingo. I think is the guy from Texas in this spot. He's fighting out of Fortis MMA. I'm not sure where he's initially from. I think Nate's from like Tennessee or something. So people are going to be rooting for Nate anyways, I'm pretty sure, in this fight just because he's so much fun. And I probably will actually put in some prop bets that we talked about, Tim, on Nate Landwehr, just because it's a damn fun bet because he's so much fun to like back and just like root for. You know what I mean? Like I happened to be at the bar one night last August for that UFC San Diego card, and I know the manager of this bar, and it's kind of like an intimate setting upstairs, and just me and some buddies, and they put the fights on the big screen, so we're just sitting there drinking, and I had that live bet put in. I'm like, dude, even if he gets if he survives round one, no matter what shape he's in, we're live betting that guy right there. Like, have your bookies ready. And we all did. And we all cashed out big just watching this guy battle through round two and round three. It was just an epic time. So I want reason to bet on Nate Landwehr just for the fun of it. But I think he does cash for us. So moving on to the co-main event of this fight night card, we've got former boxing world champion, former bantamweight UFC champion Holly Holm, who's 41 years old now, taking on Yana Kunitskaya, now Yana Santos at 135. Holly Holm, sizable favorite in my opinion, minus 235, plus 200 for Yana Santos. I say she's a bit of a big favorite just because she's 41 years old. I do see some parts of her game slowing down a bit, like the cardio I don't think is what it used to be, although she is still in tremendous shape and able to go 5 rounds. She's not as active, not as high output. And now she has added that layer to her game in the past handful of years where she is going for like the takedowns and stuff. So I like that part of her game, and I think that's what's going to edge it out against Santos. I just think Holly Holm does everything a little bit better, even still at 41 years old. So nothing I've got any cash on at minus 250, minus 235 for Holm. Like, you've got to expect at 41. Like, there's just a lot of risk in that, like she could fall off the cliff at any point at this point, but she looks in pretty good shape. I don't think we're going to see that big plotting power that Caitlin Vieira had posed towards Holly Holm and probably led to her losing that split decision. So how do you feel about this one? I think these two kind of fight similar in some ways, but Holm is just a little bit better.
I agree with that. And I think that's a huge factor. And this is like connects to my tennis background. And it's like when you have somebody that's the exact same style as you and they're just a little bit better, it's really tough to beat them because like you have the same strengths and they have the same strengths and they're just better at the same thing. So what are you going to do? You're going to go outside of your realm and fight completely outside of your game and be uncomfortable, or fight within your comfort zone and then they're just better than you. So okay. It's like, I kind of think like, I don't know. I have a hot take in this fight. Like
give it to me.
I'm tailing a same game parlay that a guy in a Discord with us said. And when I saw it, I was just like, dude, I see that. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying like that. I see that what the next prediction I'm going to make is like a 50% outcome. It's not, but in my mind, this is like a 20% or 15 to 20% outcome. And the books are saying it's like a 5% outcome. Like Kunitskaya just had a baby. She's on her first fight from coming back from a baby. Before she had the baby, she's finished in 5 of 6 of her losses. And now everybody's like, this is going to be the most boring fight ever. They have a similar style fight that they both fought Vieira and they both fought Aldana. And the difference is that one got just destroyed by Aldana and the other didn't. And it's like that to me tells me a ton. Like, so I feel like she's stronger. Holm is physically stronger. She's going to be stronger in the clinch. And so the way that I see like this fight, like my, crazy prediction, like it just gut feeling kind of, is that she gets her down early in the fight. She takes her down in the first round. She kind of beats her up a little bit. And then round 2, she just does the same thing. And she just keeps taking her down, keeps clinching her, gets her down on the ground. And you just see like her breaking her over time. And eventually she finishes her either by a KO, most likely a KO, just ground and pound and just keeps pounding the shit or elbowing her, gets a good position and just finishes her eventually. So there's like 100-to-1 same game parlay that I played very light. Like that's like one takedown in round 1, Holly Holm money line, fight ends by KO, and Holly Holm like more than 2 takedowns. And it's like, dude, that could happen. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, because she takes her down round 1, softens her up, does it again in round 2. You're saying
that's the job. That's the only part of it that, in my opinion, that's like if round 1 takedown. If she gets her down in round 1, I'm like, dude, this is so fucking live. That's the only part of it that I'm worried about. Like, really, really worried about. The fact that she gets 2 takedowns or potentially could get 2 takedowns in this fight, I would not be shocked. Do I think that she gets it? No, I don't think it's probably like 70-30. But like, you can't give me a prop that then connects to 100-to-1 on a 30% on a 30%. You know what I'm saying? Like that the first leg of that parlay is like not a 30%. Like they're pretending that's like a 5% outcome. So I really love that kind of play. And if you want to like not get super greasy and you don't take the round 1, but take like total takedowns, maybe 2+, and then you'll get like 35-to-1. So I also hit that just in case she doesn't get a takedown in round 1. So I just, yeah,
and you couple that with Yana Santos having a 50% takedown defense, so she's getting taken down quite a bit.
That's what I'm saying. Like
over a handful of fights, yeah.
It's like everybody's like just expects this boring fight and her to be able to like hang with Holm in the clinch and hang with her like in these situations. And I'm like, would I be surprised if the fight plays out close? Like, no, I mean, like that's the other thing. I mean, like it has to be that she's super, like she's stronger in the clinch. That Kuniskaya, Santos is way stronger in the clinch. But I'm like, no, they have similar styles, and it could be super, super, super boring where there is not a lot of things happening and not a lot of strikes happening. And it is a cage push fact where people are just turning and then you getting, over versus over unders. And then you're like, okay, reverse this. And she flips her around again. I wouldn't be super shocked at that. That's like, again, that's probably 30% in my mind of what happens. And the other is like probably 30 to 40% of a dominant performance in the exact same realm. And then there's like 20 or 30% of me that says, no, she gets totally dominated. She gets totally dominated, taken down like she's been totally dominated in 90% of the fights that she loses. And it's like, she doesn't fight close in these odds. She gets fucking killed. So it's like, why is this not a possibility it's only because people don't see Holm killing people. But I feel like, look at the people that she's fighting and say like, she's not getting Ketlin down. She's not getting these other fighters down. I think that the takedown could be there. And it is possible that she breaks her over time in this fight and that she's on all the juice. Like she's like, one is still trying to fight and one just had a baby and is in the first fight after having a baby. So like, I don't know. I really feel like this is a kind of a smash spot for Holm. And I don't feel like it's only just like she's just going to be a boring decision. I don't know. It's my hot take of the week. This is the one where I'm standing out on an island.
I'm getting the tinfoil hat time, man, because it makes a lot of sense. We're looking at 6 takedowns attempted against the very powerful Ketlin Vieira, unsuccessful, but 6 takedowns from Holly Holm last time. Got 5 out of 14 against Irina Aldana over 5 rounds in the last one. Raquel Pennington attempted 3 takedowns on her. So yeah, she's trying, over the past few years since like 2017, like she's trying to get the fight to the mat. And we're looking at somebody like we just talked about, Yana Santos, probably not in the best shape anymore. She is 50% takedown defense. Tajik Bey is asking, do you think them training in the past is any equity either way? Because they were training partners at Jackson Wink, I believe. So do you think that's going to make the fight slower? They know each other's tendencies. Sometimes those people that have trained together have sometimes they have respect for each other and they kind of slow it down.
I just think, I think if anything, it just gives whoever has an edge, an even bigger edge. We don't know who has that edge, but like I can assume that you can assume that it's one of them so that's, I just feel like that's when you have more time to practice with somebody like that, you can feel them out and you kind of know what they're going to go after and what their bigger weaknesses are and how you're going to get them to the ground and how you're going to do those things because you're practicing against them. So like for Holly, if she has more, I think it's even better that she has more information on her.
Yeah. Well, this is why you're the man, Tim. This is why I brought you on the show, because you managed to make that fight in the co-main event between Holly Holm and Diana Santos very exciting. And now I'm really gonna be, glued to my TV watching the clinch battle here when probably before I was not. So thank you for that. Thank you to all of you guys in the live chat, all 28 of you stopping by. Hit that subscribe, hit that like. Go follow my guy at Timothy Troiano on Twitter. He does the show on Friday nights at 8 p.m. Central Time, right? With Narco Cop on Narco Cop's channel. And they're turning out winners every week. I mean, the tickets that you guys post, I mean, it's not different than what you've been explaining. And now we're seeing the method behind it. That's why I wanted to have both of you guys on separately. I get to interview you guys separately, see what your process is. And there's some differences, but a lot of similarities too, especially with the live betting. Narco spoke about that quite a bit. So moving on to the main event, an awesome bantamweight battle here, potentially 5 rounds between Marlon Chito Vera and Cory Sandhagen. Two guys that I love to watch fight, man. They're awesome. The finishing power of Marlon Chito Vera, his evolution through his long career now, going on like 9 years in the UFC, and Cory Sandhagen, who's got like just an evolved movement style that forward, backward, side to side movement, throwing feints, switching stances. You never know what the hell he's setting up. Maybe he's trying to get you to chase him, and then he, boom, hits you with that flying knee like he retired Frankie Edgar with. Well, didn't retire him, but it was close to the end there. Marlon Chito Vera is the guy who pretty much almost retired this guy with that front kick. So they do have some similarities in the opponents they've faced before, but as far as their game goes, we're looking at the narrative that everybody knows. It's no secret. Marlon Chito Vera needs the big moments in this fight. Cory Sandhagen just move around, be a hard-to-hit target, and just pepper volume. The wrestling that comes into play here could because we've seen Cory Sandhagen taken down, but we've also seen him have some takedown offense himself. That part does intrigue me a bit. How these guys size up is going to be intriguing because Marlon Vera is a very big bantamweight, not height-wise, not reach-wise, but Cory Sandhagen's got like that long, lanky physique. So seeing the weigh-ins, now they match up physically, is going to be interesting too. I'm buying into the Marlon Chito Vera side of things here just a little bit. It's not a guy that I want to back with the money line, though, just because I hate betting on especially lighter weight classes, just that punching, that knockout power against the guy as durable as Cory Sandhagen. But the bet I do have 3 units on is a bet that I don't make that often. It's that points handicap that you can find on like Bet Online, 5 dimes. It's a 5-round fight. So to get the plus 5.5 point handicap on Marlon Vera is minus 200 right now. And all we need is just 1 round to be won and scored for Marlon Chito Vera. Just one big moment, one moment where he won the cage jockeying positions, got a big moment in a 5-round fight, So for Marlon Vera, that's probably not going to be round 1, but if he can just win, he gets better as the fight goes on. Sometimes we see Cory Sandhagen kind of, just cruise to a decision at the end. If I'm being honest and critical, I just need a 49-46. Even if it's in favor of Cory Sandhagen, I win that bet. Or if Marlon gets the knockout, he cashes that as well. So is that ever something that you play with, Tim, the point handicaps for a fight?
I've never done those. No, I find that's a great that's an area that I haven't delved into at all, but I would really be interested in it. Yeah.
So basically, if you guys are new to that method, like say we did that scenario, say Cory Sandhagen wins, but 49-46, 4 rounds to 1 in this bout. You'd have 49 is 147 points for Cory Sandhagen minus his 5.5. You're looking at a 141.5 number at the end. Say Marlon Chito Vera gets that 1 round, 46. That's 138 plus a 5.5 handicap that I've bet. He'll have more. He'll have 143.5 points to the 141 of Cory Sandhagen. So that's how it works out. So say they only give like 1 judge gives him that round and the other 2 say it's 50-45. we lose that bet. So it's a spot where we decisively need at least one big moment, one big round-defining spot where he drops Cory Sandhagen, and even if he loses, we could still cash. So that's how I've attacked this, because even though I'm leaning Marlon Vera in this fight, man, I can't go against the skill of Cory Sandhagen on the money line. But I like the overs in this fight quite a bit as well. I think they're both durable, and this could go over 3.5, over 4.5 even. But yeah, I'm going to trust in Marlon Vera, but with not a lot of confidence here. Who do you like in this bout, and what ways do you play this betting wise?
Well, I gotta say, like, I'm definitely biased in this fight. I have one of my favorite fighters fighting. Now I also do really like Cory Sandhagen. I've been successful in betting both of these guys, and I feel like, thanks, Cheek. I've been successful betting with Cory. The only fight that I lost with Cory recently is against TJ, and I thought that was borderline.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I bet Jan against him, and I bet him obviously against Frankie. But yeah, Cheeto's been like a cash cow for me. Like I've been on an island with him for a lot of the fights where everybody's like, just how do you bet this guy? How do you bet his money line? It's just, the narrative that we've heard. Right. Now people are basically, they're catching on that this guy's really, really talented and can win a fight, even though he gets outstruck 2-1. And it's clear as day that he wins the fight, even though he got outstruck 2-1. So yeah, I feel like I have a bet in this fight. I have 2 bets in this fight so far. I'll probably have more. I feel like Cheeto decision is not getting any like love, and Cheeto by split decision is not getting any love. And it's like, dude, this is definition of split decision for both. Just minutes and moments, and moments, and just what you said. Like I wouldn't be shocked if there's multiple rounds where judges are saying, yeah, dude, Cory hit him fucking 2 times to the 1 time that he hit him. And look at Cory's face. He looks like beat to shit. Look at Cheeto's face. He doesn't look like he's hurt at all. And, Cory's going around and he's on his fucking bike and he's all the way around the side and he's constantly backpedaling and he's being chased around by a guy that's hitting him with bigger punches. And it's like, dude, it's last week I cashed 20-1 on Leon Edwards by split and by decision at 5-1 or 5.5-1 against Kamaru. Now I picked Kamaru to win the fight, but I said if Leon wins, it's going to be a decision, not a KO, and if he wins, it's going to be a split. And the split happened because of the point deduction. But I also feel like I also don't feel like you needed the point deduction. I feel like it could have been split. It just needed one other judge on one of those rounds that were really close to swing it that way. So I just feel like those numbers are insane. Like this fight most likely goes. The finishing equity is late for Cheeto, in my opinion. I do feel like he's always live to finish literally anybody. His power is outlier power, and he doesn't. That's the difference, is my opinion. Is like how does Cory handle being hit by these shots when he does get hit? And he's gonna have to take a couple shots to get his in, and he's not going to be flawless in this fight where he's like 5-1, 10-1 out striking this guy. So I really feel like live entry is the way always on Vera. You just don't bet him live. Don't bet him in the first round
because he drops that round 1. Yeah,
why bet him? Yeah, why bet him there? And the books are keen to it, but the books also have to give you a better line because they know that the other guy's up around. So you're always going to get a better line. So bet him after round 1, maybe even better after round 2, and you're going to get really solid line. And the split decision props are just like, and he's 18-1 by split. Like, fuck that. Like doesn't. It's just stupid. Like 20-1 Leon split. Like it's just stupid. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like because
there's going to be a judge that's going to be like, look, I counted the significant strikes. One guy's like Cory Sandhagen tripled them, but so he might play the contrarian in that spot, right?
Aldo. The thing is I cashed on Aldo versus Rob Font by decision. I cashed on Cheeto versus Rob Font by decision, and I was just like, dude, you got these guys, and I also had late rounds on Cheeto versus Font because he should have fucking murdered him. But I was like, all right, decision's like 5-1. Like you're looking at like that's what I was saying before. Like you don't hit round 3, you don't hit round 4, you don't hit round 5, and you bet him at like 15, 20, and 25-1, and you're heartbroken. And then you're like, I should have bet the points. It was 5-1. Like, I thought he was going to win rounds 3, 4, 5, and then I didn't bet the 5-1. That's so fucking stupid. Like, just take a little money on that, hedge your bet. You're cash. You're like breaking even at worst a lot of times if he does win the fight. So in my opinion, like 20, like if you're hitting 5-1 on split and then 18-1, 5-1 on decision and 18-1 on a split decision, you're set. Like, I don't think that this is like a dominant fight for either guy. And I do feel like there's going to be moments where both are having success. And like, I just think the power is just there for Cheeto at any moment to really shift around and say, I won this round. I just knocked him down again. I hit him in a wobble. Doesn't matter that he hit me 20 times. You saw me put this guy on the stanky legs. And how do you judge this round?
And what I like about Marlon Vera is it's not like he needs like a big knockout blower, a big wind-up haymaker. Like, he hits people with short strikes, like a jab he'll drop people with, a lead left hook, like something, really slight, and he's knocking people over. So it's not like he needs to catch him with his best punch. He just needs to catch him with a strike, something that hits him flush, while Cory Sandhagen's evading, drops his hands and then skirts out of range. Maybe makes that mistake. He's not quite out of range, right? He eats the head kick like Dominic Cruz. So I agree with you. I don't think it'll be a complete shutout. If it is, it's because it's taken Chito Vera round 1 and then maybe round 2 to like work his way into finding the range and like getting the mannerisms down of Cory Sandhagen. Like, I could only imagine how frustrating that's going to be. So I think it's going to take a bit of both. It's going to take Chito Vera to find the range, find the tendencies, but then also Cory Sandhagen to slow down a bit and maybe make a couple of mistakes. And there we go. That'll cash that points handicap. Maybe get some late round props for you.
That's a good point you made in the last, is that Cory's not been fantastic in round 4 or 5 in his championship fights. Like, if you look historically, like, he's not doing as well against those guys in round 4 and 5. So I'm not saying like, and where Cheeto is, like, this is where Cheeto is coming on fire and he's starting to get his timing, and he's definitely, like, I just feel like there's different paths at earlier points for, you're going to have early success for one guy, and you're going to start to see a different shift as the fight goes. But yeah,
one last question for you on this fight. One last question for you specifically for this matchup. Like, what do you think, if anything, will be different between these guys, like in their game plan of what we've seen? Because in my opinion, I think there's room to improve for Marlon Vera. I think there's things he can do better, even just adding output, which I don't think is the worst, like the least likely. Cory Sandhagen, I think he's got a good style in this fight already. Like, he seems to be like a very completed fighter. But what do you think is going to be different in this matchup? Do you think we're going to see some wrestling we haven't seen, like from either guy, or what do you think is going to be different on Saturday?
It's interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure that we see something different from them unless somebody's not having success with what they're doing. I think that both of them kind of will want the matchup, and unless something isn't going, like if you're seeing Cory's not having as much success on the feet, or he starts to get hit, he might start going for more takedowns. Yeah. I think he's more likely to do that. But at the same time, Cheeto's gone for takedowns against guys. Like, I don't know, man. I think Cheeto's also, his BJJ is underrated. Like, and his grappling is underrated. I think it's like the narrative that I've heard this week from a lot of people has been that the edge is on the ground and the wrestling edge is for Cory. And I'm like, I don't necessarily agree with that. Like, I feel like I don't know. Cheeto when he first came into the UFC that was his thing. Like,
triangles like crazy, right?
Right. So, like he's kind of, it's like an unorthodox style and teaching. Like, I remember listening to him talk about his coaches in BJJ in Ecuador. Like, I just feel like it's just a different style, but it's dangerous as shit. So yeah, I don't know who's going to win the grappling, but I definitely think Cheeto's being underrated in the grappling edge. But I think that they're grappling if as a surprise tactic, and or that it's not their strategy isn't working, or they're not as effective striking.
Yeah, I like that. I can't wait for that fight, man. Like, it's just so intriguing. Like, you kind of have to make assumptions on either side. These guys match up super competitively. So I do like your spot on that. Very high payout split decision, because it could be that way, man. Moments versus minutes in this fight. But that wraps up a 12-fight card at UFC San Antonio this Saturday. Appreciate all of you guys hanging out in the live chat. And for Tim, do you have like a mini Lambo parlay? I know you're going to do your show tomorrow night with Narco on his channel at 8 p.m. Central. I'll definitely be tuning into that, as everybody in the live chat certainly should. If you don't live under a rock and you don't know who these guys are, man, they make money for their viewers every single week, and that's why appreciate their time. But what's like a nice 2-fight prop parlay you got for us? Just a little mini just like a mini Cooper parlay here that you got for us, just to warm our palates, just wet our palates for tomorrow.
I haven't even thought of it yet, but I would probably go if I was doing like a two leg prop kind of deal, I probably would take a shot on like Peterson by sub and Vergara by KO.
Okay.
But I don't hate either one of those, or even or KO, Vergara, and KO. You put me on the spot.
You did okay, so you're doing Peterson sub, Vergara KO. You like that one?
Yeah, I mean you could put those two together. I did parlay the stupid. I put like $5 to win 1,400 on the Cheeto to win by split and Andrea Lee to win by split.
Wait. Here's one for you. Explain your Holly Holm same game parlay for us. That'll be what we'll close on.
That'll be it. Yeah, the same game parlay was round one takedown, 1+ takedown, money line Holm, fight ends by KO. Holm most significant strikes. Holm +2 takedowns total.
Okay, so that's the DraftKings same game parlay.
That's 100 to 1.
Woo, I like that. I put a sprinkle in that one. Like we talked about it at length. And do you ever get that feeling that's just the addictive, degenerate gambler in the blood when like you have an idea like that and you're like, that's silly. And then you're like, what if that happens? I didn't play it. Now that was a thought. Like you have to do it. So we've now poisoned everybody's brain with that one.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry, guys. I really do apologize that this is the way my.
Because now if all those things hit and we didn't play it, we're gonna be like, fuck.
I'm in a Discord with a guy, and when he was saying this, I'm like KO3. I'm KO2, KO3, round 2, round 3. I'm trying to do my normal thing, and then he puts up 100 to 1, and I'm like, that's exactly what I think could happen, and it would happen exactly this way. I'm like, it's 100 to 1, and it's just way better. It's just, I love it.
Yeah. I saw Anthony W in the chat. Shout out to Anthony joining us here. He says, yo, Timmy, you got your own channel, or are you mostly featured? And you probably saw him on Narco's channel, but yeah, you should do a show at Blood Money. That's my boy Cody. They do good work, him and Johnny K. But the Twitter spot, where can you guys? I know you're on Narco Cop's channel on Friday nights, but where can people find you?
Yeah, on Twitter at Timothy_Troiano, and then Sean Orr and I do a live spaces before every card on Saturdays. Okay. We'll do a full card breakdown, and then we have a lot of sharp people in the chat that come on at the end of the show and give their favorite bets of the day. And then, that's basically it. And then I do the show with Narco, and I'm just freelancing with this. This is a hobby for me since the pandemic started, and I just started off betting really, really small, and like just started doing the props and kind of bankroll building, and now it's getting to the point where it's like I'm loving it, and it's more than a hobby now. This is becoming more and more of a passion.
Right. It's a 7-day-a-week grind thinking of this stuff and get ready for the next week. As soon as one UFC card ends, it's up to next week's preparation. So you're doing damn good at it, man, and I appreciate your time, Tim. It's been a lot of fun going over this card. We'll certainly run it back again at a later time. But thank you to everybody in the chat. Go follow all of Tim's stuff. His Twitter is right on his username on the screen at Timothy Troiano. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. I'll have my best bets and props video out by morning. I'll have that out, all my bets that I'm placing on this card. And I'm certainly going to add some of this flavor that Tim's thrown our way. Probably have to play that Holly Holm same game parlay. I can't stop thinking about it now. Going to have cold sweat nightmares about this. Maybe like her trying to go for takedowns, not quite getting it.
Yeah, the first round takedown, right?
Yeah, that's what we're going to need. So I appreciate all of you guys in the live chat. I'll talk to you guys very soon. Cheers.